and I will accomplish the streaming on YouTube channel. Okay.
Okay. I am with two screens and I can see the YouTube right now.
We are on.
Okay.
Let's start, Camila.
Hello.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Yes. So let's start.
Yeah.
I can see how many we have here for me.
Not here.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone. We are here today to have a plenary from Professor Luigi. So welcome to this special promotional plenary session of SIPO School. We are so happy to have our Professor Luigi here with us to give this inaugural lecture and help us celebrate this special event. So, to talk a little bit about SIPO School was an initiative to help all of you researchers, masters, and doctoral students as young scientists as well, researchers as well, and even professors to share and grow your knowledge. We thought it would be a great idea to bring together all these amazing researchers with different areas and in one place. So, SIPOA School will be held in the same space, the Oceania Hotel, and the October 7th. Just I remember that quick reminder that SIPO School we only be held in person, okay? And unfortunately, all the spots have already been filled. If you have any questions uh, it- with the Professor Luigi plenary, please feel free to ask in the chat and we will answer all the questions at the end of the plenary. Okay. We really hope that all of you enjoy it. And again, thank you, Professor Luigi, for to accept to our invitation. Okay. Before we start, I will introduce. I think that everyone knows Professor Luigi, but I will just do a brief introduce about Professor Luigi. Okay. Professor Luigi is an associate professor in sanitary and environmental engineer at Department of Civil Engineer, University of Salerno, Italy. And he is coordinator of the International PhD School on the Advanced Oxidation Process. I think that Luigi will talk more about it in his plenary. External expert of European Commission in Scientific Committee of Health, Environmental and Emerging Risks. He was member of this committee, editor of Journal of Environmental Chemical Engineer from Elsevier, and he was editor for Water Science and Technology Journal, EWA Publishing, from 2011 to 2023. Co-founder and president of the AOP for Water spin-off of the University of Salerno. He was a principal investigator and investigator in 19 local national and 16 international research projects, and he supervised 6 postdocs, 2 visiting, 15 PhD students, 6, 6 visiting, 69 master students, 11 visiting, and 3 undergraduate students. His main research interest is water, wastewater treatment, and disinfection by advanced oxidation process, and in particular, advanced treatment of urban wastewater of pathogens inactivation, removal of contaminants of emergent concern, and control of antibiotic resistance spread in the environment. Effect of microplastics on advanced treatment of urban wastewater, industrial wastewater treatment by combination of AOPs and biological process. Finally, he is co-author of 172 papers, 109 in peer-review indexed journal, with more than 11,300 citations and a H index of incredible 51. He is among the top of 100,000 scientists according to the so-called Stanford Rank. So thank you again, Professor Luigi, and I hope that all of the audience here, students, professors, masters, students, PhD students, enjoy this opportunity. Okay?
Thank you, Camilla, and thank you very much to the organizing committee of SIPOA School for inviting me, and particularly to Professor Regina Moreira and to you, to Professor Camilla de Amorim. So I will share my screen to show you my presentation. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Not yet.
It's okay?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
You can see the full screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so that's my talk, as introduced by the speaker, is entitled The Roles of Advanced Oxidation Processes in Wastewater Treatment. And we will compare with the support of our investigation at the University of Salerno, a comparison between urban wastewater treatment and industrial wastewater treatment. So before to start with the topic of my talk, I would like to first introduce to you the International PhD School on Advanced Oxidation Processes. This is an initiative of academics and scientists with a strong and international recognized expertise in the environmental application of advanced oxidation processes. The members of the scientific committee, they work on a voluntary basis in promoting the higher education of PhD students and young scientists in general in this research field. The school was founded in June 2014 by a group of European academics and scientists, and originally it was named European PhD School on Alps. But subsequently, in 2018, it became international as an institution from different other countries, and in particular from Latin America, joined the school. I am the coordinator of the school, but I have also the support of 2 colleagues of mine, namely Professor Sixto Malato from Plataforma Solar de Almería, Spain, who is coordinator for Europe, and Professor Ricardo Torres Palma from University of Antioquia, Colombia, which is coordinator for Latin America. The organization of the school include a management committee, which make the decision about the school, and a scientific committee. So far, we have more than 80 scientific committee members from more than 60 institutions from 25 different countries all over the world, and more than 100 PhD students affiliated to the school. So the initiative of the school actually are related to the organization of specific events or training events for young scientists, in particular summer school, webinars, and also we commit ourselves to negotiate reduced fee to attend relevant conferences for PhD students. We promote networking to create new opportunities among school members, but also with members outside the school. And we keep PhD students updated about new position, conferences, and other relevant news through our mailing list and other networks. So as I told before, one of the main events of the school are the summer school. Basically, the first one was organized in the 2015 in Salerno at the University of Salerno Fisciano campus. The second edition of the European School was organized in Porto by the University of Porto with colleagues Professor Adrian Silva and Vitor Vilar. The third edition in 2019 was organized in Spain by Polytechnic University of Valencia by Professor Antonio Arques. And last year in October, we organized the first Latin American school in Cali, in Colombia. The local organizer was Professor Ricardo Torres Palma and other professors from different universities of Colombia. The next European school is the fourth, because we had a break due to COVID. And so this is the fourth edition of the European school, is scheduled for next November 4-6. The local organizer is Professor Dimitra Lambropolou from Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in Greece. And the second edition of the Latin American school will be organized possibly in October next year in Mexico. And as local organizer, Professor Jorge Gabriel Vasquez Arenas from Instituto Politécnico Nacional. Other initiatives that we organized in particular during the COVID period, as you can see, were webinars. And regarding the school specifically, at the end of the career of the PhD students, as they get their degree, they can be awarded with a label named the International PhD on Advanced Oxidation Processes. And in this slide, you can see the requirements to apply for the label. So in this case, the candidate has been awarded the PhD degree within the last 2 years. The PhD thesis deals with environmental application of advanced oxidation processes. The candidate has been supervised by a member of the scientific committee of the International PhD School on Ops. The candidate has spent at least 3 months working in a university or research institute located in a different country than that where the candidate carried out the PhD thesis. And finally, the candidate's thesis, or at least an extended summary, should be written in English. In some cases, the label can be automatically awarded if in the final evaluation committee, one of the members of the scientific committee of the school is also present. The PhD students that will successfully apply for the label, so are automatically eligible for the best PhD thesis prize which the school grant each year to the PhD students affiliated to the school. So what are the eligibility criteria for PhD students to apply to the International PhD School on Ops? So first is that the PhD thesis project deals with the environmental application of advanced oxidation processes. And second, that the supervisor or the co-supervisor is a member of the scientific committee of the school. In this case, the application letter should be sent to Professor Sixto Malato for PhD students from European area, to Professor Ricardo Torres Palma from PhD students from Latin America, and to me for PhD students from other countries. Okay, so if you are interested, you can send me an email and I can send you the template of the letter for the application. What about the eligibility criteria for professor and scientist to apply for the scientific committee on the school? So we expect that the professor or scientist is an internationally recognized expert in the environmental application of advanced oxidation processes. The applicant should have a consistent number of years after he earned the PhD degree, and should have a CV supporting independence in research. Moreover, the applicant, the professor, the scientist, should have at least one PhD students who would like to join the school, and then we also expect from the professor scientist that she actively contribute to the school in the different initiative of the school. In this case, so the application for the scientific committee from professor or scientist can be sent to me by email. They can send me a short English CV. I will discuss the application with the management committee, and we will take into account all the requirements that I explained before. If the application will be successful, the professor scientist will be associate member of the scientific committee from the time that his PhD students will successfully apply to the school till his PhD student will be awarded the PhD degree. So normally we inform the affiliated students and members through our mailing list and also by posting news in LinkedIn. Okay, so let's talk about the topic of my presentation, so about the roles of advanced oxidation processes in wastewater treatment, so urban versus industrial wastewater. This is the content table of my presentation. I will briefly introduce some advanced oxidation processes that are relevant for the subsequent discussion. Then I will start to talk about the role of advanced oxidation processes in urban wastewater treatment by introducing the main challenges in advanced treatment of urban wastewater and discussing the advanced oxidation process application with regard to our investigation at the University of Salerno and in collaboration with colleagues also from foreign countries. Then I will introduce the role of advanced oxidation processes in industrial wastewater treatment with some examples of industrial wastewater and challenges and OPS application. Finally, I will provide you with some take-home messages and acknowledgements. Okay, briefly, in particular for the people attending this school that are not so familiar with the OPS or that are not so familiar with the different OPS, because somebody can have expertise only in one, two advanced oxidation processes. And this brief introduction is useful in order to better understand what I will introduce in the subsequent slides. So, as you know, advanced oxidation processes promote the formation of radical species, so different radicals depending on the process. Among these, hydroxyl radical, sulfate radical, and other radicals. And this radical can effectively degrade, oxidize organic and inorganic contaminants in aqueous matrices, as well as to inactivate microorganisms. Advanced oxidation processes can be classified in different way. You can find, for example, in some textbook that they are organized, classified as ozone-based advanced oxidation processes and the no ozone-based processes. Or other possible classification include the photo-driven versus dark advanced oxidation processes. Or another possible classification is homogeneous versus heterogeneous advanced oxidation processes. Among these, the photo-driven advanced homogeneous advanced oxidation processes include processes where a catalyst and or an oxidant is dissolved in the aqueous matrix and can produce radical species under a specific, a proper radiation. Some examples of photo-driven homogeneous LPS include UV hydrogen peroxide, photophantom, UV chlorine, sulfate radical processes. Moreover, it is noteworthy to mention that there are some processes that can be also operated with sunlight in order to save energy cost. So one of the most investigated processes is solar photophantom. And then we also have electrochemical advanced oxidation processes that have been investigated in different applications in different aqueous matrices. So regarding homogeneous AOPs, phantom is for sure one of the most applied. Phantom reaction is a reaction including metal salts. The conventional phantom include iron salts, which reacts with hydrogen peroxide to produce hydroxyl radicals. The main drawback of this process is the pH. This process is effective under acidic condition at pH 3 and produce a large amount of sludge, in particular if we use this process in industrial wastewater treatment. And so full-scale applications are limited, but we have several applications of this process at the full scale as pre-treatment of poorly biodegradable industrial wastewater. Among photo-driven homogeneous advanced oxidation processes, one of the most important is photophantom, in particular solar photophantom. This process, as I told before, can be effectively operated at acidic pH, but if we add to the solution some organic compounds named chelating agents, the process can be also operated effectively at a neutral pH because chelating agents can form complexes with iron and can avoid precipitation of iron at a neutral pH. Another important photo-driven homogeneous AOP is UV hydrogen peroxide. The photolysis of hydrogen peroxide results in the formation of hydroxyl radicals according to the reaction you can see in the slide. The UV hydrogen peroxide process is possibly the only process, photo-driven homogeneous process applied at full scale so far in potable water reuse, and it is also used as a benchmark in different research works for comparison, for example, with other advanced oxidation processes or treatment methods. Another interesting photo-driven homogeneous advanced oxidation process is UV-free chlorine. In this case, the radicals results from the reaction between free chlorine and UV radiation. In this case, in addition to hydroxyl radicals, we can also have other radicals, in particular chlorine radicals. The formation of radicals is strongly affected by the pH of the solution because free chlorine is drastically affected by the pH. When we add chlorine gas or hypochlorite to the solution, they promptly transform to hypochlorous acid, which is a weak acid, and fastly dissociate into to form hydrogen and ion hypochlorites. And so depending on the amount of hypochlorous acid and hypochlorite ion, we can have a different kind of radicals formed during the process. Then, as I told before, we also have heterogeneous processes, in particular photocatalysis, one of the most investigated processes. In this case, some materials, in particular semiconductors, are used to produce radical species under illumination by an appropriate radiation. Titanium dioxide is possibly the most investigated semiconductor in photocatalytic application, in heterogeneous photocatalytic application. Titanium dioxide is activated only in the presence of UV light irradiation, but the low surface area and poor adsorption capacity, as well as the high rate of recombination of photogenerated electron-hole pairs, limit photocatalytic activity. But in order to solve this problem, we can increase the efficiency of the process by doping the semiconductor, in this case titanium dioxide, with the metal elements. And then finally, we have electrochemical processes. They have been proposed and investigated in the different treatments, so different aqueous matrices. In the case of electrochemical oxidation, strong oxidants, such as hydroxyl radical, active chlorine, persulfate, can be generated electrochemically on the anode surface. The effectiveness of electrochemical oxidation, indirect electrooxidation, electroreduction, and electrofendon, among others, is primarily linked to the catalytic reaction occurring at the anode or the cathode surface, or at both types of reactions, such as in the case of electrofendon. So let's start to talk about this application to urban wastewater and industrial wastewater. Let's start in particular with the application of OPS to urban wastewater. And so in order to do this, we need to introduce what are the main challenges in advanced treatment of urban wastewater. So when we talk about tertiary treatment, we mean a different process in urban wastewater. Tertiary treatment include filtration, for example, to remove suspended solids, include nutrients removal, to remove nitrogen compounds or phosphorus, but also include the tertiary treatment, the disinfection process to inactivate pathogens. Okay, so one of the main challenges in the disinfection process is the inactivation of resistant pathogens. Also take into account that in some cases we have really stringent limits, such as in the case of wastewater reuse. For example, recently in European countries, the first regulation on wastewater reuse came into force in 2023, last year. The regulation was approved in 2020, but came into force just last year. And according to this regulation, the limit for Class A water is really stringent. It's 10 colony formol unit of Escherichia coli per 100 milliliter. Another challenge in the tertiary treatment of urban wastewater is the formation of disinfection byproducts when we use chemical disinfectants. And so we can have different disinfection byproducts depending on the specific disinfectant. For example, we can have trihalometanes and alloacetic acids, which are disinfection byproducts of chlorination process. We can have bromate or nitrosodimethylamine, which are byproducts of ozonation process. We can have chloride and chlorate, which are disinfection byproducts of chlorine dioxide. Most of these compounds are regulated, but in particular in drinking water treatment. Then what about the challenges in quaternary treatment of urban wastewater? So first, when we talk quaternary treatment, at least at European level, thanks to a new directive that is under approval, the quaternary treatment is the treatment necessary to remove the so-called contaminants of emerging concerns from urban wastewater. Okay, So the contaminants of emerging concern include active ingredients of pharmaceutical, pesticides, personal care products that, although occurring at a quite low concentration, typically in the range of nanogram per liter, microgram per liter, can accumulate in the environment and can result in chronic toxic effects. Another challenge in the advanced treatment of urban wastewater is antibiotic resistance. As you know, antibiotic resistance is the ability of microorganisms to persist or grow in presence of antibiotics. And urban wastewater treatment plants are among the main hotspots for the release of antibiotic resistance determinants, which means antibiotics, antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and antibiotic-resistant genes. Unfortunately, we do not have any regulation, any specific regulation that sets specific limit for antibiotic resistance determinants. In order to understand how to investigate this problem and how to evaluate the efficiency of the advanced oxidation processes on antibiotic resistance, we have to take into account the mechanism through which microorganism can transfer resistance. Okay, so in this slide you can see the three main mechanisms. The first one is known as conjugation. In this case, a resistant donor cell can transfer and exchange DNA through the pilus with a non-resistant recipient cell, and finally, in this way, the recipient cell will be also resistant to antibiotics. Another mechanism is transduction. In this case, the resistant donor cell, because of lysis or cell death, can release phage, okay, and the phage can carry bacterial antibiotic resistance genes and transfer to a non-resistant bacterial cell. And finally, we have natural transformation. In this case, the resistant donor cell, because of cell death or lysis, can release genetic material in the solution, free DNA and antibiotic resistance genes that can be uptaken by a non-resistant cell. So in order to evaluate the efficiency of a treatment process on antibiotic resistance, we have to evaluate the effect on antibiotic-resistant bacteria, on phages, for example, and on free DNA and antibiotic resistance genes. Other challenges in advanced treatment of urban wastewater include microplastic. Wastewater are among the main hotspots for the release of microplastics. However, I introduce this one, but I will not focus our work on microplastic. In this case, the most effective process are separation processes such as conventional filtration and membranes. And finally, another challenge is the so-called energy neutrality. In Europe, this concept has been introduced by the proposal of the new directive on urban wastewater treatment. And as the directive will be approved, the wastewater treatment plant managers will be asked to adopt technologies in order to have a complex energy neutrality in the management of the wastewater treatment plant. And as you can understand, this can in the future drastically affect the use of advanced oxidation processes, in particular the photo-driven ones, because they are high energy demanding processes. So let's go into specific on the role of the urban wastewater, of the APS in urban wastewater treatment. For which of you is not so familiar with a conventional wastewater treatment plant? An urban wastewater treatment plant typically includes mechanical pretreatment, possibly a primary treatment, which is a settling tank, a sedimentation tank. Then we have the core of the process, the secondary treatment, which is the biological process. We can use different technologies in this case. For example, the most used is activated sludge process, but other technologies widely used are MBR, membrane biological reactor, are MBBR, moving bed biofilm reactor. For example, in Brazil, I'm aware that you also use anaerobic digestion with the granular sludge. So this is a technology that can be used in some area of Brazil because of high temperature. This technology is not so used in Europe, for example. And then we have the tertiary and quaternary treatment, which also include, as we explained before, the disinfection process. As a tertiary treatment, I told you we can use filtration to remove suspended solids, membrane also to improve the removal of suspended solids. And in order to disinfect water, we can use conventional disinfectants and to remove contaminants of emerging concern. So as a quaternary process, we can use adsorption process with, for example, with activated carbon, which is used in some countries already in Europe, in particular in Switzerland and in Germany. And then we can also use AOPS, which are really attractive because they, unlike all adsorption process, for example, they can simultaneously remove contaminants of emerging concern and pathogens. So here I will introduce some of the results that we achieved in our group. In particular, in this case, we start with a collaboration with our colleagues from Plataforma Solar de Almería. This is a work from my former PhD students, Gulnara Maniakova, which was for some months at Plataforma Solar. In this case, we investigated the solar photophantom-like process, which means that we investigated the solar photophantom process at neutral pH. We operated process using a chelating agent, EDDS in this case, and we investigated process in a realistic condition using real secondary treated urban wastewater. In this case, you can see the difference of the process and in particular the effect of carbonates on the efficiency of the process. So in particularly on the graph on the left, where the dissolved inorganic carbon content was 96 milligrams per liter, in order to achieve a total removal of salmonella, we need 180 minutes, approximately 1.9 kilojoule per liter of cumulative energy with the solar process. But when we reduce the dissolved inorganic carbon to 14 milligrams per liter, you can see that in the same experimental condition, we could reduce the treatment time to totally inactivate salmonella. And also we could improve the efficiency to inactivate the other microorganisms, in particular E. coli and Enterococcus. In this case, this is a work we performed at the University of Salerno with my research group within the SWAP project. In this case, we also investigate pathogens inactivation by solar photophantom at neutral pH in real secondary treated urban wastewater. In this case, we compare two chelating agents, in particular EDDS and IDS, and with the sunlight hydrogen peroxide. So in this figure on the left, the figure A, you can see the effect of the process, the solar photophantom with the EDDS on three kinds of microorganisms, E. coli, coliphages, and Clostridium perfringens, okay? If you compare with the figure in the central of the slide, which is the process, the solar photophantom with the IDS chelating agent, you can see that the solar photophantom with IDS was more effective. Unlike we observed an opposite effect, an opposite results when we investigated the removal of contaminants of emerging concern. In that case, EDDS was more effective. So what was the point in this case? Possibly being EDDS more effective, we also have a faster degradation of the chelating agents. And the faster degradation of the chelating agents finally result in a faster precipitation of iron with an increased turbidity. The increased turbidity reduce the effect of the mechanism of the so-called intracellular photophantom process in the inactivation of microorganisms, which finally made the solar photophantom process with EDDS less effective than the same process with IDS. This is also another interesting example of a test we performed in collaboration also with the colleague from Plataforma Solar de Almería. In this case, we compared sunlight H2O2 process with the conventional disinfection process with chlorine, so chlorination process. In the two plots, you can see the effect, disinfection effect. On the left graph, you can see the effect of chlorine in figure A. You can see the effect on total E. coli and on antibiotic-resistant E. coli. And you can see that we achieved a total inactivation after 15 minutes of treatment. On the opposite, for the sunlight H2O2 process, we need at least 120 minutes for the inactivation of total E. coli and antibiotic-resistant E. coli. But when we performed a post-treatment test in order to evaluate the possible regrowth of microorganisms, we observed different results. In particular, in this case, in addition to the samples we collected before, we also collected the samples in the middle of the treatment. So you can see on the left that after 6-hour treatment, so 0 time means at the end of the treatment with the chlorination process. So after 6 hours, we can only find the microorganisms from the test where we collected the samples in the middle of the process. So when we have a residual bacterial in the samples. But when we collected the samples after 12 hours of incubation, we also start to see bacteria from total E. coli taken at the end of the process, when the total E. coli were supposed to be totally disappeared. This means that actually total E. coli did not disappear, were only damaged by the disinfection process and could regrow after some time as environmental conditions were appropriate. And after 24 hours of incubation, we can see that also antibiotic-resistant E. coli started to grow. Okay? If we take a look at the right side on the B figure for sunlight H2O2 process, we can see that despite in the previous slide we saw that sunlight hydrogen peroxide was less effective, actually is more effective when to protect from regrowth after treatment, because in this case the E. coli, the total E. coli, start to grow only after 24 hours, and antibiotic resistance E. coli only after 48 hours. And this is important in particular when you have to reuse wastewater. Okay, then we investigated this process is also as a quaternary treatment of urban wastewater. In this case, this is also the work from Gulnara at Plataforma Solar de Almería. You can see the process, solar photophantom process at a neutral pH with the EDDS escalating agent, okay? And in this case, you can see the difference. You can see the reactor in the photo. These are raceway pond reactors called. And you can see the difference between the effect of water matrix. On the left, you have simulated urban wastewater, which is a solution we prepared in the laboratory, and the difference compared to real urban wastewater. In this case, you can see that the matrix effect significantly reduced the efficiency of the solar photophantom process in removing the target contaminants of emerging concern that were caffeine, trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole, carbamazepine, and diclofenac. Another investigation that we performed at the University of Salerno, in this case, this is the work that I showed you before, also the inactivation of pathogens. In this case, as I told before, we compare EDDS and IDS, and as you can see, as I anticipated before, the process with the EDDS was more effective than the process with IDS. So solar photophantom with EDDS were more effective in the degradation of the pollutants. Here you can see the effect of alkalinity. So the lower the alkalinity, the higher the efficiency to remove the total of the contaminants of emerging concern. And again, we also investigated the UV-free chlorine process. And also we investigate in this case the effect on the disinfection byproducts formation, the trihalometanes. As I told you before, trihalometanes are among the main disinfection byproducts of chlorination process. So in the figure, you can see the effect, the comparison between UVC free chlorine process versus free chlorine process alone. And so you can see that chlorination alone was not effective in the removal of the target contaminants of emerging concern. On the opposite, UVC was really effective. UVC free chlorine process was really effective in the removal of the target contaminants. And in this second figure, you can see the effect on the single target pollutants. The more refractory pollutant was carbamazepine, while the other pollutants were also removed within the investigation time. So what happens in terms of trihalometanes formation? Okay, so the trihalometanes formation is the result of the reaction between chlorine and organic matter. Okay, so in this graph, you can see that 60 minutes results are the results at the end of the process. In this case, you have 4 bars. 2 bars refer to the UVC free chlorine process in diluted and undiluted wastewater, and the other 2 bars refer to chlorination process, okay, in diluted and undiluted wastewater. So you can see that after the treatment, after 60 minutes, the formation of trihalometanes, in particular of chloroform, which is the main trihalomethane among the 4 trihalometanes, the concentration was really low, was lower for UVC process compared to chlorination process. But most important, after 24-hour and 48-hour incubation in dark, after the treatment, you can see that the chloroform does not appear in the samples treated by UVC free chlorine process, while the chloroform concentration started to increase in the free chlorine process alone, because in this case, the residual chlorine in the solution keep reacting with organic matter even after the treatment. On the opposite, in the UVC free chlorine process, the residual chlorine reacted with UV radiation to form radical species, and in this way was not longer available to form trihalometanes. So in this case, we can see the UV-free chlorine process is not only effective in the removal of contaminants of emerging concern, but can also prevent the formation of chlorination byproducts. Then we also investigated the effect of solar photophantom on antibiotic-resistant transfer. So in the other slide, we also see the effect on the pathogens. Another way to evaluate the effect on antibiotic resistance, as I told you before, is through the evaluation of the effect on antibiotic resistance genes. So in this case, we compared different treatment. This is a comparison between solar photophantom at neutral pH and at acidic pH. And chlorination process in real wastewater. So you can see the effect of these processes on different antibiotic resistance genes. In figure A, you can see the effect of solar photophantom with the chelating agents, in this case NTA, so at the neutral pH. In figure B, you can see the process without chelating agents at acidic pH. We also effect in figure C, you can see the results, the control test with acid pH, so lower than 3, in order to discriminate the effect of pH compared to solar photophantom at acidic pH. And finally, you can see the effect of chlorination process, even this one under realistic condition. Anyway, we can conclude from these results that actually the processes do not significantly affect the removal of antibiotic resistance genes. In particular, actually, solar phytoplankton result in higher removal of antibiotic resistance genes compared to chlorination, but we did not observe significantly differences between before and after treatment condition under realistic conditions, so using real urban wastewater. We also performed other tests. In this case, we compared solar phytoplankton with EDDS and IDS, okay? And we also compared with the sunlight hydrogen peroxide, okay? So in this graph, we selected some of the results that we achieved for the removal of specific antibiotic resistance genes. So in the figure, you can see the effect of the treatment, so after 3-hour treatment, and you can see the effect after 72 hours after the treatment, so to evaluate possible regrowth. As you can see, a regrowth in antibiotic resistance genes was observed. The investigated process, the effect was found to be antibiotic resistance gene dependent. And in this way, it is not easy to draw conclusion on the effect of the investigated process on the natural transformation and conjugation mechanism. And however, these results confirm that solar phytoplankton with IDS can provide a higher protection because it resulted in a higher removal of antibiotic resistance genes compared to the other investigated processes. Moreover, we also investigate heterogeneous photocatalytic processes, and in particular, our scope was to evaluate if heterogeneous process, in particular solar photocatalysis with nitrogen-doped TiO2, titanium dioxide, could be competitive with other processes, and in particular solar phytoplankton. In this case, our colleagues from Department of Industrial Engineering prepared the catalyst, the nitrogen-doped TiO2, which is more effective under sunlight compared to TiO2 alone. But as you can see from this result, the heterogeneous photocatalytic process were really poor effective compared to the other process investigated, so hydrogen peroxide sunlight, solar phytoplankton at acidic pH, and the solar phytoplankton with EDDS at neutral pH. So the heterogeneous process, as you can see, for the carbamazepine degradation and trimethoprim degradation was really less effective compared to the homogeneous photo-driven advanced oxidation processes. Okay, and now let's talk about, I should go fast because I think I have only 15 minutes approximately, about industrial wastewater treatment. So let's introduce first what are the characteristics of industrial wastewater and the challenges. So normally industrial wastewater are poor biodegradable and also can include toxic pollutants, may include a mixture of several pollutants. Some of these industrial wastewater are also characterized by really high organic loadings. For example, olive mill wastewater can also have up to some 100 grams per liter of COD. Some industrial wastewater are characterized by acidic pH, other by high pH. So this is also a really challenging problem. In some cases, in a centralized industrial wastewater treatment plant, pH can change also depending on the type of wastewater. Normally, wastewater treatment problem is approached with a multi-barrier approach, combining chemical, physical, and biological processes. And so, as we will see, it is really important in some of these cases to identify a proper combination of advanced oxidation processes and biological process. And as we will see, advanced oxidation process can be used in this case and as a pre and post treatment. So this is also a schematic flowchart of a possible industrial wastewater treatment through a multi-barrier approach, depending on the characteristic of industrial wastewater. So in the pre-treatment, we can also have the chemical treatment, which can include one or all of these three processes, which means coagulation, normally to remove suspended solids or to precipitate some metals, pH neutralization eventually, and advanced oxidation processes. Then we can have a primary treatment, a secondary treatment. In this case, the advanced oxidation processes and other chemical processes are useful to improve the biodegradability of the wastewater before biological process. Sometimes this is not sufficient, and so in some cases, industrial wastewater after pre-treatment are also mixed with urban wastewater or biodegradable wastewater in order to make the biological process effective. In other conditions, we can also need an advanced treatment because sometimes we have some pollutants, darkened pollutants, that even if they were effectively removed by the biological process, the residual concentration is still high and higher compared to the limit set by the local regulation. So we need a post-treatment to remove this pollutant. In this case, you can see the application of a Fenton process as pre-treatment to landfill leachate with a quite refractory wastewater. And in this case, you can see the effect on the biodegradability. In the table, you can see the value of some parameters before and after the treatment with the Fenton process. And in particular, you can see that we started with a ratio BOD5-COD, which is an indicator of biodegradability of 0.07, and we could achieve a 0.3 value, which is quite sufficient for biodegradability. And we also investigate in our group the effect and the combination of advanced oxidation processes and biological processes on other refractory industrial wastewater. Olive mill wastewater are really important and result in higher concern, in particular in a European country, in the Mediterranean area, where we have a large production of olive oil. And these wastewater are really hard to treat. So in this case, we compared the Fenton oxidation with electro-assisted Fenton process. And on the figure on the left, you can see the effect of the process of total phenols, because olive mill wastewater are characterized by really high concentration of phenols, which make the wastewater refractory and toxic to biological process. And so you can see the difference between Fenton oxidation, the full symbols, and the electro-Fenton oxidation, the empty symbols. And so the green line is for the total phenols removal. And you can see that electro-assisted Fenton was more effective than conventional oxidation process. Just to give you an idea, we had to dilute the samples in this case to 1 to 10 in order to make the process effective. Just to give you an idea, the raw olive mill wastewater was characterized by over 100 gram per liter concentration. And after centrifugation, it was reduced only to 67 gram per liter concentration. So we had to dilute before the pretreatment. In this other plot, you can see the effect of on the COD and total phenols removal by the electro-Fenton process, and the effect on the biodegradability. As you see, the red point also we could achieve at 0.4 with the electro-Fenton assisted compared to 0.35 compared to the Fenton oxidation. So we then combine this process with a biological process. In particular, we combine it with the moving bed biofilm reactor process. in this case, as I explained before, can be necessary to mix the pre-treated wastewater with urban wastewater or other biodegradable wastewater. And this mixture is a crucial step because it can allow to reduce, depending on the pre-treatment, the dilution ratio. So in this case, you can see the effect of different processes on not pre-treated by phantom oxidation and pre-treated, figure C, by electrophantom assisted. In this case, look, electrophantom assisted looks less effective, but is not so, because you can see that with the phantom process, the dilution ratio was 1:10, while in this process, this test with electrophantom, we could reduce the dilution ratio to 1:8. Okay, it is also we investigated solar photophantom in the pretreatment of olive meal wastewater using IDS as chelating agents. Also in this case, we had to dilute wastewater. And you can see that we investigated process using different ratio between IDS, iron, and hydrogen peroxide. And in one case, we could achieve a really high efficiency in terms of biodegradability. And as I told before, we also investigate this process as a post-treatment, because after biological process, even if total phenol concentration was significantly reduced, the residual concentration is not yet in compliance with the limit for the disposal into the environment. So we also investigate the photophantom-like process in this case, after the biological process, so as a post-treatment. And you can see in the picture that we achieve a really high efficiency in terms of total phenols removal by photophantom-like process. We also investigate heterogeneous photocatalysis, even on olive meal wastewater treatment. But in this case, as you can see, in order to make the process effective, we need a really high dilution ratio, up to 1/7, before to achieve a relevant results. In this case, we investigated two photocatalytic process using TiO2 alone, iron-doped TiO2, chromium-doped TiO2, and chromium-iron-doped TiO2. And you can also see on the right axis the BOD5 COD ratio. So the olive meal wastewater samples was first centrifuged and then diluted with the deionized water. And only after this dilution, we could appreciate a removal of COD and the total phenols in the order of 30–40%. When we add hydrogen peroxide to the photocatalytic process, we add hydrogen peroxide in order to improve the formation of hydroxyl radicals. You can see that in this case, the scale is different. Here we can achieve up to 80% removal, okay? And so you can see that iron chromium doped TiO2 could allow a removals of approximately 70% of total phenols. Even in this case, we investigate the process, the photocatalytic process post-treatment after the biological process. And in this case, we need a really high dilution ratio in order to make the process effective and to achieve a significant removal of the target pollutants. So I can go to the conclusions. What we can say, so about tertiary and quaternary treatment of urban wastewater, we can say that advanced oxidation processes are effective in the disinfection and removal of contaminants of emerging concern, while maybe not so effective in controlling antibiotic resistance spread, so we need further investigation. One of the main challenges in urban and industrial wastewater treatment by advanced oxidation process is to find an effective and simultaneously sustainable solution, because we are moving toward a condition where the treatment processes should be increasingly sustainable, in particular in terms of energy consumption. So we have to investigate also other solutions, for example, dark advanced oxidation processes, hybrid systems, to find energy recovery solution to couple to the advanced oxidation process. According to the results we achieved, that also you can find in the literature, you can see that when we compared heterogeneous photo-driven advanced oxidation process with homogeneous ones, the heterogeneous processes are not competitive. In particular, in industrial wastewater, they need a really huge dilution ratio in order to achieve significant results. So from the work that I showed in the previous slides, you can see that we used to approach our investigation using different expertise. So we use different expertise in terms of disciplinary, and this is really important when you approach an environmental problem. So when you set your experimental design, you have to identify what are the expertise you need, because in order to make your work more attractive for a larger audience, it is important to involve different expertise. So, and depending on the scope of your project, you have to select the proper expertise. So as you can see in our work, we involved expert in microbiology, in toxicology, in advanced analytical chemistry, water and wastewater process engineering, material science, such as in the case of heterogeneous process. And finally, it is really important to make your work more attractive for the audience and for a worthy of a publication in a high impact factor journal. Okay, to also investigate your process under realistic condition. As you've seen, in most of our case, we investigate the process under realistic condition, using a quite realistic concentration of pollutants, investigating real aqueous matrix, real urban wastewater, secondary treated urban wastewater, real industrial wastewater. And sometimes we also compared our processes with the best available technologies in order to make the reader aware about what are the real full-scale application chance for the investigated processes. So I would like to acknowledge my group from University of Salerno, our colleagues from the other department of the University of Salerno, Department of Industrial Engineering, and of course our colleagues from Spain, in particular from Plataforma Solar de Almería and University of Almería. And finally, I would like to show you this slide. We are possibly some of you are aware that the most important conference in Europe about environmental application of advanced oxidation processes is this one. We will organize the 7th edition in Salerno. This is the first time that it is organized in Italy. We will organize the conference is scheduled next year in June 30th, next year 2025. Here you can see the web page where you can find all the information. The conference will be organized in the Pestum. Pestum is an archaeological area close to Salerno, which is also on the seaside, as you can see. And so you also can have the chance to visit a really wonderful place in Campania region. The abstract submission deadline is next September 14, so just a couple of weeks. And hopefully that some of you can attend this conference and can to have the chance to meet you in person. And that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Luigi. It was a really nice plenary. We have two questions. I think that we have we have time for that. It's more than midday, but if you want, I can't read for you because it's in the chat, in the YouTube. So I will read the first one. It's from Fernando. and UFMG. Thanks for the stunning presentation regarding UV-free chlorine process. Aiming to achieve wastewater quality to use, considering toxicity, the DBPIS. What should we dive deep in our future researchers?
Okay, if I well understood the question, so the Fernando concern is the formation of disinfection byproducts in the UVC chlorine process.
Yes,
okay.
Considering the toxicity, what should we dive deep in our future researchers?
Okay, yeah, this depends. Your investigation, what you want to do, depends on the scope of your investigation. Okay, because if you want to investigate to perform a scientific work to investigate the formation of specific chlorination byproducts is a matter. But if you want to investigate the possible application at the full scale of UV chlorine process is another matter. In this second case, as I told before, if you talk about wastewater treatment, the formation of disinfection byproducts normally is not regulated. But if you are investigating UV chlorine process for drinking water treatment, in this case, the formation of chlorination byproducts is regulated in most of countries. And so trialomethanes and alloacetic acids are regulated. So we did not investigate specifically drinking water with this process, but as I show you in our slide, we investigate the effect on industrial wastewater, in urban wastewater. And in urban wastewater, we did not find any significant concentration of trialomethanes after a UVC chlorine process, opposite to chlorination, where you could see that actually chlorination products formed. So in this case, it's up to you. So the toxicity of the process actually not only depends from the regulated disinfection byproducts, but sometimes depends also from unregulated disinfection byproducts. So maybe you can have an interest to collaborate with the people with expertise on advanced analytical chemistry to investigate the different disinfection byproducts in real water. So this could be a possible option for investigation. Hopefully I answer your question.
Okay, thank you. The next is from Leonardo Marchiori, and he said, "Thank you for the great presentation, Professor Luigi Rizzo. But for photosynthesis process, are the chelants used to stabilize the metal at higher pH also oxidized by iron, for example?"
No, sorry, I did not understand well the question. Can you repeat, please?
The questions about the chelants used to stabilize the metals when you have higher pH, and I think that he's concerned about if the chelants are also oxidized by iron present in the photophantom process. If the iron could oxidize the chelants used.
I don't think so. Actually, we did not perform specific test to evaluate this option. I think that the degradation should be mainly due to the formation of hydroxy radicals or other radicals that can degrade the chelating agents. Okay, this is an option. I do not know if iron alone can oxidize in some way, because we did not investigate this part.
Okay. And the last one is from Gunther. It's from UFMG as well. Thank you very much for your presentation, Professor Rizzo, about the heterogeneous photocatalysis. Some papers have worked on the activation of oxidants by photocatalysis, of course. And in your opinion, it is a good strategy in order to reduce the electron-hole recombination on the photocatalysis surface and enhance the generation of secondary radicals by oxidants alone?
Okay, So actually, I'm not a material science expert. Okay, so when we work on heterogeneous photocatalysis, as I explained in my presentation, we collaborate with our colleagues from Department of Industrial Engineering, and then develop the catalyst, and we investigate. So if I will understand your question, you are asking
He's asking if when we use it oxidizing together with the photocatalysis, how what your opinion about it to include an oxidizing together with the photocatalysis to improve the efficiency of the photocatalysis, like if when you use hydrogen peroxide.
Great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We also, in one of the slides, we show you one of these conditions, no? Where we added in one case hydrogen peroxide, and in another case we did not use. Obviously, hydrogen peroxide in that case could improve process efficiency. So this depends on the characteristic of water you have to investigate, on the limit of the pollutant after the treatment you have to be in compliance with, and if you can achieve this limit with or without the oxidant. Obviously, in terms of operating condition, the addition of hydrogen peroxide will increase the cost. So if you do not need, you will not use. But what I can say that with heterogeneous photocatalysis, as I explained in the final slide, I do not see realistic chance of application at full scale in the next future. Okay, because it is really important when you perform a test with heterogeneous photocatalysis to compare with the best available technology under the same condition in order to understand if it is feasible or not, if it is competitive or not. Unfortunately, most of the work in the literature just investigate the photocatalytic process under not realistic conditions. And in this case, your work is not attractive for example, an high impact factor journal environmentally oriented. Okay.
Okay. So thank you so much again. I think that we don't have more time, but it was amazing to have you here, Luigi. And thank you to accept our invitation. And we will try to send some abstracts for the EOP for the next year in Salerno, okay? And Regina, you want to say something? And for the audience, we hope to see you soon in Florianopolis. Unfortunately, Luigi is not coming, but next year.
Yeah. Maybe. I'd like to thank you, Luigi, for this nice presentation and your availability to stay here to share your knowledge with us. It's too important for the audience. I think it's a very important launch for the CIPO school, and you are being expected in another opportunity in Brazil, in Florianopolis. In the audience, I would like to see you in Florianopolis in a couple of weeks in October for the CIPO here as well, Camila. Thank you.
And Regina, do you need the PDF of the presentation? Eventually, if somebody asks you.
Yes, please.
Okay, I will send you by email. Okay. So thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you everyone for listening my talk. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. See you.
Bye. you.